Somewhere on this beautiful Vancouver evening, a man is beating the crap out of a woman.
I got jealous and I choked her out when we got home from a night out.
I blacked out and ended up assaulting her. Did a lot of damage on her.
And the bottom line was I wanted to be violent. I chose to be violent. I chose.
But twice a week at this community center, a small team tries to teach men they can change. It's called Warriors Against Violence. For 12 years now, hundreds of Aboriginal men have come here to admit their abusive behavior, then try to unlearn it.
I attacked her. I bit her hand to get the keys out of her hand that she took out of the ignition, and then I started hitting her to get them back. And that night after that, I woke up in jail.
I just grabbed her by the arms and I was holding her there, and I was just getting so mad. I could feel myself just getting to that point. I just looked at her and she's like, "Baby, no." I was like, "What the hell am I doing? Why am I so angry? What is making me angry?"
Well, they put me in the jail cell and for about 5 hours, and I had a lot of time to think about what I did. And the worst part is I don't know exactly what I did. I saw pictures of it when I sobered up the next day, and it was put a lump in my throat to think that I was capable of doing that.
Joyce Fasella is the director of Warriors. She believes emphatically in the need to heal Aboriginal men.
I'm so glad. Statistically, Aboriginal women are more likely to be abused than any other nation.
Oh, don't guess. I'm no relations.
Her husband, Joe, is the group's co-founder.
There's a lot of secrecy going on in all the reserves, and even in town here, and a lot of people are still in big denial.
Just go down.
Together, they're dedicated to ending family violence in Aboriginal communities, and that is nothing short of amazing. Given what happened nearly 50 years ago, when Joe asked Joyce to marry him.
I said yes, but I asked him, and I said, "You're not going to beat me like my dad beats my mom, are you?" I asked him this question, and I was really serious because I grew up in a home like that, and I didn't want that for me. So, and he said no, he would never do that.
I promised myself when I met my wife that I'd never beat her like my dad beat my mom.
But 3 months into our marriage, I had a black eye.
She almost left, but stayed when he threatened to kill himself. So it began. To the outside world, Joe was the life of the party, not at home, where he directed his frustration at Joyce and their 2 boys.
He was an angry person, a very angry person behind our doors.
Behind closed doors.
I'd start ripping up her precious things to cause her more mental, emotional anguish. And it wasn't a frequent thing, but every now and then I would slap around, and I did kick her one time when she was pregnant in the stomach.
And that one night, he pulled that rear view mirror off, pulled it right off, and I thought, oh, he's gonna kill me, he's gonna kill me, he's gonna kill me. I was so scared.
There was times when we'd go out and she's got black eye, and I said, "Go get some of that makeup they use, the artists on TV sets." And so we're getting ready to go out so I could go get drunk.
He's looking for a gun. I mean, he's hunting gun one time, but he separated the clip from the gun, and he couldn't find the clip, I guess. But I thought he's gonna shoot me and the kids.
What was that like for you?
I was terrified. I didn't know what to do at that point, but something happened inside of me that I just looked at him and I just said, "Are you gonna kill me? You might as well do it."
The abuse lasted 2 decades. Then it got worse.
I'm here because I don't want to go to prison anymore. I don't want to be violent, and I don't want to hurt or harm anyone ever again.
There was power and control. I was offended. Therefore, I'm going to exact some vengeance and wrath on this life giver, the mother of my child.
And then they asked me to say a few words on behalf of the men, right? You know, and challenging the men to, you know, come stand up and address violence, you know. And so I was feeling really guilty about it, eh? Because, you know, I come from a place of violence, you know. And I'm capable of violent acts, you know.
Some days I'm embarrassed to be a man because we put women through so much hell, so much abuse, and it should never, ever have happened.
As Joe spiraled deeper into alcoholism, his rage intensified.
I grabbed her by the neck and I started choking the life out of her. She was all flushed in the face and trying to gasp for some little bit of air. And after I said, "I'm sorry," but I said, "I love you." And she looked up at me from the bed. She said, "Yes, Joe, I know you love me, but one day you could love me to death."
Joyce secretly began counseling for battered women. Finally, she confronted him about his extramarital affairs.
This is where I felt really, my spirit was really getting crushed. My body felt like it's going to give up. I just felt like I have got to do something. So I stood there and I just said, "You know what? If you don't make changes and you don't get help for yourself, we're finished. I can't take any more." He stood there. He didn't say a word.
I pretty well looked at her probably like a deer with the headlights on, you know. Wow. And what amazed me is where'd she get the courage to tell me this, you know, right at that moment. Whereas before, I always had my family under my thumb.
Within days, he found a therapy group for abusive men. The first step was the hardest.
And then I started listening to the men talk, and their stories were very similar to mine. That gave me the trust to start opening up about what I was doing to my wife, my children, and other people that I took advantage of, other people I beat up, and then going back into my childhood.
For the first time in his life, Joe revealed he had been raped by a stranger as a little boy and beaten by a father who ruled with an iron fist.
Watching my mom getting beat by my father on a regular basis. Seeing my 8-year-old sister in bed with my father, naked, when I was about 14. Watching my dad almost kill my 8-year-old sister when she was 4 years old. Choking her, swinging her around until she pooped herself. She almost died. That's trauma.
You know, all the negativity was started to build on me and stuff like that, and it got worse where my dad he hit me a few times, and I took it very hard. I soiled myself when he hit me. I was that scared.
I never saw the same woman ever at my house with my dad more than 3 times. So that other learned behavior, I learned to use and abuse women.
I grew up with violence in my neighborhood and school and just the way things were growing up on the res.
Watched my stepfather, beat the shit out of me
beat my mother up, beat everybody else up, all the older guys womanizing and, you know, sneaking into beds and fooling around with each other's wives and stuff like that. I didn't think two things of it.
I witnessed my first murder at the age of 4, and I was first sexually abused at the age of 5. Growing up, that seemed to be the norm where I'm from.
Because I feel each and every one of these stories about the abuse, controlling. Oh, it wasn't my fault. That's a bunch of baloney. We knew what we were doing because we were shown, we were taught how to do it. So we have no excuses. We cannot blame nobody except ourselves. And that's why I say today, from my day forward, I'm still that angry child from residential school, from growing up from an abusive home. I'm still that angry person. But except I learned to work with in a better way to give back to people.
For Joe, who couldn't afford to see a counselor or psychologist, free access to men's group counseling was life-changing.
It was such a relief to know that for the first time in my life, I'm looking at Joe, what's wrong with Joe. And instead of blaming everybody in the world for making me pissed off and angry at the world, the police, the preachers, her parents, everybody in the world I was pissed off at.
Joe sought healing in cultural teachings. Joyce went back to school. They did their best to repair the damage done to their boys by taking on responsibilities to raise their grandchildren.
Coming to my grandchildren has helped me and what I've learned from my teachers, and I'm still learning. I'm not perfect yet today. I'll never be perfect in this life, but I'm striving to be perfect.
It took a while. And one day I'm thinking, wow, I'm not afraid anymore. I can even talk back to him and I'm not afraid and I can do that. So he's concerned about it.
With the cycle broken in his own family, Joe was inspired to help start Warriors Against Violence. Joyce soon joined him. Their story encouraged others to share their own shames.
Okay.
I'm having a baby. I'm eight and a half months pregnant. I have another 6 more weeks, and I left the father. He pushed me once, and I left. No, I'm not going to take that.
I know we're here. We provide tools. We provide support, encouragement. But you do the work. It's you, in the end, who makes that change.
We got to look at different ways of managing this stress. But if we don't deal with it, it's still keeping us angry.
I just kept letting her vent, and I didn't get angry. And that was a good thing for me. You know, usually I would have got overreacted and I would have started drinking and I would have fucking blamed her. But I didn't do that.
Violence was just one small part of me. It doesn't define who I am today as a First Nation man. It's just a part of me. I love to laugh. I love happiness. I love giving back to people.
Today, I know where my anger came from. And I can't blame anybody anymore. I've refused to.
I'm proud to say that I walk through these doors, and I'm proud to say that I'm a warrior.
Oh. Remember one thing. The hardest journey in our life is from here to here, from our mind to our hearts. That's the hardest journey. That's the longest journey that we'll ever have in our life. Once it connects, then we'll have a better understanding of what's going on with ourselves.
Warriors is no silver bullet. Joe and Joyce are the first to admit that. Men come and go. Some are violent again. But they see the success stories. Many of them.
I can go out to these gatherings and I see these families. that were in Warriors years ago. They're together, they're raising their kids, they've gotten their children back. They're not going into prison, and so that's the rewards that we receive when we see people make it.
We do not fix them. They fix themselves. They work with themselves to get what they need, as I did. When I got that aha moment in my life when I dumped all my crap, I felt like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders, and I told Joyce, what did I wait so long for?
They are sons, fathers, uncles, brothers, given space to be vulnerable, to heal, to be the protectors they're meant to be. Duncan McHugh, CBC News, Vancouver.